Get a load of this number, $72 billion. That's the insane amount of money Meta is planning to spend on capital expenditures in 2025 alone. And you can bet that almost every single dollar of that is being driven by its massive AI ambitions. And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. Because reports are saying that a multi-billion-dollar piece of that pie, well, it might not go to Nvidia. It might go to Google for their custom-built TPU chips. And if that happens, it could signal a huge structural shift in the entire AI hardware market. Welcome back. This is the Chip Market, where we break down semiconductors and AI infrastructure for long-term investors. Today, we're going to dig into what this all means for you. So, here's the game plan. We'll start with the deal itself. Then we'll compare the tech and get into Meta's real strategy here. After that, we'll look at the winners and the players under pressure, and finally, what this means for the new AI arms race. All right, first things first, what is actually going on? You know, as investors, it's absolutely crucial that we separate what's fact from what's just speculation.
Okay, so the plan that's being reported, it's kind of like a two-phase thing. Phase 1, starting around 2026, would be Meta basically renting TPU computing power from Google's cloud. But the really big move comes in 2027 and beyond. That's when Meta would actually start putting Google's TPUs inside its own data centers. You see the difference? That's not renting an apartment. That's buying the building. It's a much, much bigger commitment.
So let's be super clear about what this means. We know talks are happening, we know it's a multi-billion-dollar scale, and we have a rough timeline. But the nitty-gritty details, the exact price tag, what percentage of Meta's work will run on these new chips, that's all still up in the air. So remember, this is about diversification. This is not Meta just dropping Nvidia tomorrow. Now, let's get into the fun stuff, the tech. I mean, why would Meta even think about a move this big? Well, it all boils down to the technology and, of course, the economics of these chips. So when you look at this, you see the classic trade-off. Nvidia's GPUs are the jack of all trades. They're backed by CUDA, their software platform that's been the industry standard for over a decade. I mean, that's a serious lock-in effect. But Google's TPUs? They're specialists. They are built from the ground up to do one thing incredibly well, the matrix math that powers AI. And because they're so specialized, they can have massive advantages in things like performance per watt and overall cost. I love this analogy because it just clicks. The Google TPU is a Formula One race car. You put it on the right track and absolutely nothing can touch it. An Nvidia GPU, that's your heavy-duty all-terrain truck. It's powerful, it's reliable, it can go anywhere and do anything. But it might not be the most efficient tool for just one specific job. And for a company like Meta, whose biggest jobs are things like training Llama and running recommendation engines, that specialized race car starts to look really, really good. And really good comes down to one thing investors care a lot about: total cost of ownership, or TCO. We're not just talking about the sticker price of the chip. We're talking about the cost to power it, to cool it, to run it for years. And some analysis suggests that for a company at Meta's scale, TPUs could be 4 to 6 times more cost efficient. When your annual budget is in the tens of billions, savings like that are, well, they're impossible to ignore.
So that brings us to Meta's real motivation here. And it's not just one thing. I like to think of it as the 3 C's.
First up, cost. Plain and simple. With a $70 billion plus shopping list, Meta has to find ways to manage its spending and, frankly, get out from under Nvidia's massive profit margins. Second is control. Being completely dependent on one supplier, that's a huge risk for any company. Having a real second option like Google gives Meta way more negotiating power and protects its supply chain. And third, it's a custom fit. The specific jobs Meta needs to do, like those recommendation algorithms that drive Facebook and Instagram, they are a perfect technical match for what TPUs are built to do. And it's also really important to see how this fits into the bigger picture. This TPU deal isn't happening in a vacuum. It actually works alongside Meta's own custom chip project called MTIA. Think of the TPUs as a bridge, a way to diversify their hardware right now while they keep working on building their own perfect, custom-fit chips for the long, long haul. So, the big question for us: when billions of dollars start moving around, who wins and who starts feeling the heat over our 3 to 7 year time horizon? Let's break down the key players.
Well, the clearest winner here is Alphabet, no question. A deal like this would be a massive stamp of approval on a decade of incredibly expensive research and development into TPUs. But more than that, it actually transforms TPUs from just an internal tool into a whole new high-margin business. It means Google Cloud isn't just a cloud provider anymore. It's a direct hardware competitor to Nvidia.
Now, the sort of hidden winner in all this? It's Broadcom. See, they're the ones who co-design and help build Google's TPUs. So for them, it's simple. More TPU orders mean more revenue. They are the classic picks and shovels play here. They win as long as the trend toward custom chips keeps going, no matter who the end customer is. And what about Nvidia? Look, this is definitely a crack in the armor, but let's not call it a fatal blow. The immediate hit to their revenue is probably pretty small. The real story, the long-term threat, is about their pricing power. When your biggest customers finally have another real cost-effective option, they can push back on price. This is probably the first sign that the days of Nvidia having almost unlimited pricing leverage are coming to an end. This whole thing also creates a bit of a challenge for AMD. For a while now, AMD's big pitch has been, hey, we're the other GPU company, we're your alternative to Nvidia. But if a giant like Meta decides their second source isn't another GPU, but a totally different kind of chip, a custom ASIC like a TPU, well, that could leave AMD fighting to be the third choice. It makes their uphill battle for market share just a little bit steeper. So let's zoom out for a second. What this all really signals is a huge structural change in the AI hardware market. We're moving away from a monopoly and into a world with multiple vendors. For the past few years, this is what the AI chip market has looked like. It's basically been a one-company show, right? Nvidia has had something like 95% of the market, which gave them just unbelievable power over everything. But the world is slowly but surely shifting to look more like this, a much more competitive market. Now, Nvidia is still the 800-pound gorilla, but you see their shares starting to shrink as real alternatives from Google, from in-house custom chips, and from AMD all start to carve out their own pieces of the pie. The age of total dependency is over. So let's wrap this up. What are the key takeaways for us as investors thinking 3, 5, 7 years out? For Nvidia, that powerful software moat is still very much there, but their pricing power, that's going to come under real pressure. For Alphabet, this is huge. It validates their strategy and should help expand Google Cloud's margins. Broadcom, they're a key beneficiary of this whole diversification trend. And for AMD, the fight to be number 2 just got a whole lot tougher. This whole situation really leaves us with one big, critical question for the long term. For the first time, we're actually starting to see the edges of Nvidia's moat. Now, don't get me wrong, it is still incredibly wide and deep, but it's not infinite anymore. And the race is officially on to see who can build the next bridge to get across it.